So if you've been living under a rock, well, the World of Warcraft Classic stress test has sort of come, and probably by the time this video's out, it's already gone. It's a flash in the pan thing to really try and push the servers to their limits. Character level limit was 5, so you can't really expect to do much in the stress test. It's very sort of narrow and focused, and it's designed to test their layering tech and sort of what they can do with layers, and test how many people can they cram into one area, how many people can sort of hit the login queues and stuff like that. What happens, I'm sure, as part of the test, what happens if they bring it down and then everyone tries to re-log in. Like, testing all these little things and seeing how the servers hold up and what happens. And yeah, it's a very technical thing, is a stress test, right? It's not really there to give you much of an experience of how the game's going to be played, but, you know, you're going to use it to get a little taste. And honestly, like, I've got to hand it to the WoW Classic devs. This stress test felt like a stress test. Like, it looked like a stress test. The server was going up and down, login queues were consistent, and there were problems throughout, which is a good sign that they're actually getting valuable, useful data that they can use to actually make the servers stronger and more integral. But this is the internet, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, this is the internet, and so people can't really tolerate it. Now, while the stress test was going on, two of the major streamers for WoW Classic, Asmongold and Sodapoppin, decided to make a little event, basically make a run event, where you get a low-level character and you try and run it to somewhere where it shouldn't be. This was, of course, to the gates of Anchorage, with a bunch of undead and gnomes racing to get there first. As a result, this event did kind of take over and spread its tendrils throughout all of the playtest experience, and honestly, it looked like a good time. It looked like a lot of fun was had by most people, but not everyone, because, again, this is the internet. And so, I want to take a look at some of the finest, juiciest nuggets the internet has to offer, looking at a mixture of the official forums and the classic WoW subreddit, to see just what people had to say about the experience.
I downloaded the stress test client fully expecting it to be a clown fiesta of people struggling to log in and lag everywhere when they did get in. What I wasn't expecting was streamer privilege letting them jump the queue and Blizzard summoning bosses to cause carnage. This wasn't so much a stress test as it was a timed promotional piece, and it surprises me that there's so many people here defending it. Lapdogs, all of you.
I see this mentality a lot. I saw it when Overwatch came out as well, and they let in a bunch of the content creators and streamers to basically help test the game nice and early. And there's a couple of factors that always go into it. First of all, I always love the idea of, like, oh, those dastardly streamers taking away my slot in the beta. If only they weren't in, I would get my slot and I'd write bug reports every day. I've only seen this streamer submit one bug report. How useful is that? I might submit bug reports every 2 minutes and it will be amazing. Like, there's always this mentality that they've taken it away, or they've taken the slot away, or they're somehow worsening your experience. And in my experience, that's just not the case. People who get, like, priority invited to a beta for, you know, either promotional reasons, like a lot of streamers would be, also just to have, like, a dedicated tester who a lot of people have eyes on. Like, these guys are playing the game for a long time, and they're going to just be running through the content. They're probably going to be running through the content in a structured way as well, which is always useful. And also, they can actually serve as nice touching points for Blizzard to hear feedback from a large community, so they can basically scoop up information from their community and then blurt it all out at Blizzard, or Blizzard can just keep an eye on that community or what that guy's doing, and they can get a lot of valuable information that way. It's not really a matter of, like, they've eaten up one of the slots that could have gone to someone else, right? There is actually not a hard-coded finite number of beta testers available. They just give these keys to, well, they don't even give keys, they just flag the accounts and these guys can then go and play. It's not taking anything from you, really, and for skipping the queue, they were actually in the queue for quite a while. I was watching a number of streams, I kept my eye on a number of streamers, and yeah, they were in the queue just like everyone else. They did occasionally manage to, like, slip through, but even then, it's like, it's such a minor thing.
Unhappy that the streamers decided to hijack a stress test for some stupid race. Ideally, this event was meant to simulate launch, not stimulate it, oops, by testing login functions, character creation, and the dynamics of the starting zones with hundreds of players. Instead, they have a cash money prize for some race, raking in views and profiting off this mess. Kinda messed up in my opinion.
Again, it's that mentality of, oh, the streamers, they've ruined it and made it horrible, and it's like, tons of people logged in, all into the same starting zones, by the way, to roll gnomes and undead for this event. Those people all went through character creation, all went through the login queues, they were all disconnecting and all eager to reconnect and get back. They all, moved through the zones as well in a big influx of players. They ran around, they probably loaded more of the world than would have been loaded regardless, because they have to have, they have to set things up so people are loaded in all these different areas. And yeah, I don't see that it was somehow ruining the test. I mean, they still managed to swarm a number of the starting zones. They filled it with bosses and tested it regardless. They brought the server down, they brought it back up. People were still where they needed to be. People were dying, people were rezzing. It was all working fine. I don't understand that mentality of man, they ruined it. It's like, how? How did they ruin? They ruined the integrity of the event. It's like, it's not, what? They ruined the fact that you can't do level 2 quests in Elwyn Forest? Well, you could. You could still do that. It would be a mess, but you could still try. Some people did try. It was a mess.
Yeah, it's completely full. Streamer privilege only. They got in with their follower army and took all the spots for people who actually wanted to play and not do some dumbass death run. That experience I would have provided on that level 1 to 5 zone. Oh my god, Blizzard would have never seen its like again. They're crippling themselves. They've hamstrung themselves without knowing it by not letting me test those precious Tirisfal Glade quest lines. Oh, now the game's going to be ruined. I don't know what these people expect. It's just, it blows my mind that, okay, well, Blizzard wanted to test the server structure and test the login servers, test the queues, test all this kind of stuff, what happens when the server goes down, and it's like, oh man, if only I could have got in, if only those dastardly streamers weren't involved and weren't there, I could have logged in and done my starting level undead quest lines without being interrupted. Oh, it would have been so, it's like, I don't know what they were expecting. I just realized that a lot of comments and rage in this sub makes us look like our incels. Just replace chats with streamers. That's honestly how it feels. He's actually hit the nail on the head there. It's like people, I kind of get it, right? I kind of do get it, where people are frustrated that, they either spend, a very limited amount of time to try something they're very excited for, and I'm excited for it too. And so what happens is it doesn't go to plan, right? Oh, I've got 2 hours, I'm gonna go and do these low-level quests and try and get the most out of it as possible, and it's gonna be so much fun. And then they start it up and it starts late. And then it starts and the queues are huge and they spend half an hour in a queue and then they just get disconnected. And then so they have to re-queue again. And then they're stuck in a queue, so they're going to go to Twitch and they open up the Twitch stream. They see a streamer running through, 1,000 needles. And they go, oh my god, that guy's playing. Why can't I play? He's ruining it for me. It's his fault. And it's just like this inability to process that emotion, the inability to process that frustration that I find so funny when they lash out and go, oh, it's the streamers. Ah. I would be curious to know how many people were invited to this stress test. In 2 hours I managed to get to the character creation screen, but every time I tried to create a character, I got the timeout message. I wish they would have excluded people who already had the beta, letting others have the chance, especially since the streamers basically flooded the servers with their viewers. In a stress test, piling people in. Isn't that a good thing?
I can't imagine flooding an entire zone with hundreds or thousands of people is a good thing in a stress test to see how the servers handle under extremely heavy load. I do recall some streamers getting banned by Blizzard in the past for doing that. It's kind of like finding toilet paper on sale at the store, buying all of it, then leaving none for the others. It's good for the store's business, but not for others that need it. I should have done a Russian accent, but I can't because this guy's clearly working hard for the proletariat. Oh, comrade, we must rise against the bourgeoisie, the streamer who is taking away your toilet paper. Alas, if only that person were there to test that 1 to 5 questing experience, WoW Classic could have been so much better. A conspiracy theory on the forums. I am told from a reliable source that stress testers were given certain numbers. Group 1 was able to fully go through. Group 2 was able to create characters but not get through. Group 3 was only able to get to the realm selection before being forced back to login servers. This was purposefully done for testing. So if you were not given the correct group, you would never get to play during test hours. Once all of this was done testing, they will let everyone play until tomorrow. Anyone who was trying to connect, it was never going to work during the stress test for you. This is actually kind of an interesting thing. Like, I'm mocking it slightly, and hopefully the whispering went through, who knows. But it wouldn't surprise me if there was a nugget of truth to it. The idea of, having certain people just constantly stuck in the connection loop to test the queues. What would have been nice if this was the case is if Blizzard did say, like, hey, for the first couple of hours, you might not actually be able to log in, or just something to that effect so people had an expectation managed. But honestly, they could probably just get away with saying nothing and let people just hit the queues over and over and over again. Like, people seem to have this fundamental misunderstanding of what a stress test is meant to achieve. Yes, it's going to give you a taste of the game. It's going to give you just, like, the briefest nugget. But even then, it's going to be a miserable experience. Like, stress tests, in my experience, when they're done properly, like this one was, are very seldom actually that fun. They give you like this very quick flash of content, but it's always hampered by the fact that you are surrounded by people, you are going to be hit by disconnect, you're going to have constant problems that you will have to just try and deal with. Personally, I wouldn't really care to go looking for some massive conspiracy about keeping me out of the beta for a certain period of time while the goddamn streamers, they got in without problem, and all their followers as well, every single one of them, if only, but I'm not a follower of a Twitch streamer, I'm a strong, independent person who don't need no streamer. It tickles me, guys, it tickles me in ways you can understand. I know this has probably been said 10,000 times, but the whole point of a stress test is to see how well servers cope with a large amount of people logging in and creating characters to see how the servers are affected by the influx and outflux of data. This wasn't a server for playtesting. That's what a normal beta is for, people.
Then why did they mention leveling up to 5 in the email?
Leveling up to 5 would provide almost no data in terms of what has already been tested in the beta since it's been out. If the stress test was for playtesting, the cap would have been higher. They're not gathering data for the thousands of people if they let in for levels 1 to 5.
I feel used.
Yes, that's the point. You were used to stress the servers. Like, I don't. Okay, I can't. I can't. I think the biggest thing that people need to take from this experience is that, yes, streamers are actually really out to get you. We hate you, even us small ones. We absolutely hate you, and we want to take away everything that is yours and just have priority to get into a playtest to get that sweet, sweet level 1 to 5 content. God, it's just so good. Oh, God. I might learn a few skills, or maybe pick up a trade skill and level it to 75 in those 2 hours, just to spite everybody in the queue. Oh, it's so juicy and tender and delicious. Like, come on. Grow up. Bloody hell.